I have just watched this episode of the Y-File, and every time I watch his show, I get fucking downloads. Every time. Now listen, during the whole beginning, and it's funny, I had this thought, and he says it at the end. You know how you see these people on here trying to do their telekinesis, but it's their air moving the tinfoil? You guys remember in the 80s and 90s, the attention psychics had, like Miss Cleo, and how they showed that the psychics are bullshit money grabbers? You ever wonder why they did that? So people would think we aren't capable of psychic ability, like a huge psyop? But then the CIA releases files about remote viewing, and this whole episode's on remote viewing and these hidden bases in these mountain ranges. And something else I learned that was crazy. Do you know that
During the 1960s and 70s, the United States and the Soviet Union fought the Cold War on many fronts. Some of these engagements were obvious, like the Cuban Missile Crisis and the proxy wars in Asia. Other conflicts were not so obvious. In the 1970s, America and Russia engaged in a new type of warfare, psychic warfare. The CIA was actively recruiting and training people with a natural talent for remote viewing. Remote viewing is projecting your consciousness to anywhere on Earth and beyond. One remote viewer, entirely by accident, found himself at Mount Hayes in Alaska. Mount Hayes is in the middle of nowhere. There's no civilization for miles, but something was calling him to the mountain. Then he looked inside the mountain. There was a base hidden inside Mount Hayes. Then he saw this was not a base built by humans. When multiple sources confirmed the existence of the base, they soon realized this was only the beginning. During the 1960s,
I have just on assassinated, but watch this at the base, because some guy by the name of Price saw something he shouldn't have saw with great detail, and he was later on assassinated. But watch this. At the end of it, you'll realize that remote viewing is possible not only to psychic people, but for all of us. And there's a lot of it in this episode that I could go into, but the main thing I got was we are focusing on the wrong shit. All of us, you're seeing these awakened people trying to do this telekinesis. Y'all really need to concentrate on calming your mind and syncing both sides of the hemispheres of your brain and trying to, astral project, but remote view. While conscious, not sleeping. We are more than you think. They have calcified our pineal glands for a purpose, locked our DNA with vaccinations and inoculation, and are trying to change our DNA with mRNA technology to basically track us and depopulate it. I'm here to tell you the government tells you a whole bunch of shit they don't want you to know, even within your religion. And more I'm realizing why that is. Watch that, and it'll make this video a lot more sense. Y'all have a blessed night. I love all of you.
Wow, it's a miracle. Wow, it's a miracle. 100,000 racks. Wow, it's a miracle. Wow, it's a miracle. Blue, black, Bugatti driving. Wow, it's a miracle. Wow, it's a miracle. That got me high as a cloud. It's a miracle. High off the loud. Wow, it's a miracle. Hold on, player. Wow, it's a miracle. Wow, it's a miracle. 100,000 racks. Wow, it's a miracle. Wow, it's a miracle. Blue, black, Bugatti driving. Wow, it's a miracle. Wow, it's a miracle. That got me high as a cloud. It's a miracle. High off the loud. Wow, it's a miracle. Hold on, player. Wow, it's a miracle. Wow, it's a miracle. 100,000 racks. Wow, it's a miracle. Wow, it's a miracle. Blue, black, Bugatti driving. Wow, it's a miracle. Wow, it's a miracle. That got me high as a cloud. It's a miracle. High off the loud. Wow, it's a miracle. Let's go.
Who among us hasn't had the unsettling experience of thinking about someone when suddenly the phone rings and that person is calling? Or how many times have we heard about a friend who wakes up in the middle of the night with a premonition sometimes tragic, that later comes true. These psychic phenomena and others like them are increasingly the object of scientific research in the United States and around the world. 60 Minutes set out to chronicle some of that research. In a research laboratory in Brooklyn, sliced ping pong balls over a woman's eyes fill her vision with opaque light. All she can hear is the sound of waves crashing against a shore. In a room next door, a man is suspended in a contraption called the witch's cradle, his eyes covered, his earphones playing constant static. These two are clearing their minds. They are going through something called sensory deprivation, preparing them for an ESP experience. In the Soviet Union, a film tells of a Russian woman who claims she can move objects across a table without touching them by means of psychokinesis, the energy that pours out of her fingertips, a phenomenon that defies the laws of physics. Are these things real? Laboratory-controlled telepathy? Psychic power that can move physical objects? Real or not, they are part of a growing scientific interest in psychic phenomena.
I'm going to disconnect now, Tom.
If you accept the theory that humans can communicate at an extrasensory level, why rule out a whole other order of living things, like plants?
I'm changing frequency.
This is the hypothesis of Marcel Vogel of IBM in California. Vogel spends his days at IBM as a hard scientist. But after hours and on weekends, he tries to communicate by psychic force with the plant world. The plant in question is a rather wan split philodendron, which Vogel has hooked up to a polygraph machine. The morning we filmed this, Vogel observed, while one of his colleagues, who claims psychic power, took a trip inside the plant itself. In the psychic world, this is sometimes referred to as out-of-body experience.
Now, as we are one with the plant,
Right.
let us now look at the cell structure that is present in the stem of the plant.
All right, I'm in the leaf. Let me get down into the stem. Okay, I'm in the stem.
Fine. Now look at the wall cells in the stem and describe what you are now seeing.
All right, I started out more toward the center of the stem. Now what I'll do is I'll just go back up into the leaf. There I am. I'm in the leaf now.
All right, now I'm out.
Go back up into the leaf.
During the trip, Vogel monitors the polygraph to note the philodendron's reaction to the strange visitor.
Now what I'm going to do is generate energy out to the plant. Let's see what happens.
There it goes. As a response, send me. The exciting thing is that the plant is not connected to either one of us, but is now a very sensitive monitor of the forces that are within us.
It's dark. It's dark.
Vogel and his associates believe that plants react to psychic forces around them in a way that can be measured by scientific instruments. An independent research organization in California known as the Stanford Research Institute contracted to study psychic phenomena under laboratory conditions. Last fall, they spent several weeks with a 25-year-old Israeli psychic named Uri Geller, and they cataloged a series of remarkable feats. He went through a series of experiments, but either my skepticism or the presence of two cameras had a negative effect. Although he claims to be able to start broken watches by passing his hand over them, he couldn't start the one we brought with us.
But just 2 days ago in a demonstration, they brought me 5 watches, and I fixed all of them.
Really? Geller asked me to draw a letter while his back was turned. I drew the letter L, and then he drew something similar. Later, while we were not filming, he psychically bent a knife which was on the table. He had not been willing to try this while the cameras were rolling. He asked me to draw an object while he was out of the room, and he tried to read my mind, to tell me what it was.
Okay, I'm going to put 2 things that appeared in my mind, and if I'm wrong, you show me what. The first thing that, when I asked, is it a part of a man, the first thing appeared to me was something like this, like this, like this, like this. And then when you kept repeating the word, a bee appeared in my mind, and I might be completely wrong. Again, I'm saying it to you. And then this changed to another. Okay, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. This changed to some sort of a bird or something. I'm wrong?
You're right.
I'm right? Thanks God.
The fact is that in this field that has been plagued with frauds and charlatans, many serious people at many prestigious centers of learning in this country and abroad are spending their time investigating further in this provocative field of study. The amount of foolproof, repeatable scientific data so far has been negligible, but the work continues and the interest grows.
Many people claim, and many others question, the existence of ESP, extrasensory perception. Aaron Moriarty of 48 Hours has gone searching for answers.
This is Uri Geller.
In the 1970s, a handsome ex-Israeli army paratrooper popularized extrasensory perception, or ESP.
Bend, melt.
Uri Geller claimed he could bend spoons with his mind,
Look, you see that?
see inside sealed containers,
The steel ball is found.
and even read other people's minds.
As you can see, he is quite elated about getting the right answer.
It was great television. But offstage, Geller had also caught the eye of the intelligence community.
And this is where it got very interesting, because scientists would consider, wait a minute, maybe we can read the minds of other government officials. Maybe we can see inside a nuclear facility in Russia.
It sounds incredible, but it's true. Relying on now declassified documents, national security reporter Annie Jacobson has written about the U.S. government's decades-long attempts to use Uri Geller and others like him for psychic espionage.
It's sort of like a highly classified black program inside of a black program. One, because you don't want the Russians or the Chinese to know what we're doing. And two, because a lot of scientists didn't want their colleagues to know what they were doing because of the embarrassment factor.
And there had long been reports, says Jacobson, that the Kremlin was also experimenting with ways to weaponize people with ESP.
And there is a declassified report that talks about the Pentagon's real fear, citing Uri Geller by name, that if he was able to bend metal with his mind, he might be able to use his mind to interfere with the delicate electronic system on a nuclear-tipped ICBM.
Keep looking.
But Uri Geller's skills turned out to be unreliable.
Uri was telling me you don't feel, what, strong tonight?
I don't feel strong.
As seen in this now infamous appearance on The Tonight Show in 1973.
I can't.
Well, I'm not trying to press you, I really not.
Still, that didn't stop the government experiments. In the 1980s, the Defense Intelligence Agency began Project Stargate.
It was top secret. It's actually beyond top secret.
Dean Radin, a scientist, worked on the program that employed about a dozen psychics and mediums. For what?
For espionage.
To see whether someone in the United States could spy on other countries from here.
Right.
Just using their mind.
Right.
Did it work?
It did work, yeah.
I was good at finding people. I was good at locating things.
Angela Ford was with Project Stargate for 9 years. She calls herself a medium. The Defense Department preferred remote viewer. In a sense, were you hired as a psychic spy?
I guess, yes.
Her assignment? To look for missing hostages and fugitives without ever leaving this building at Fort Meade in Maryland.
I was called into session and my boss asked me, "Where is Charles Jordan?"
In 1989, Ford says she was able to psychically track down a former customs agent who had allegedly gone rogue.
I said, "The man is in Lowell, Wyoming," and I spelled it Lowell.
Ford was off by a letter. It was Lovell, Wyoming.
Well, when my boss went to customs and said, "We're still getting the Wyoming feeling," Customs said, as we are speaking, we are apprehending Charles Jordan 100 miles west of Lovell, Wyoming.
So you were right.
We were right.
There's no obvious explanation for how Ford obtained the intel that turned out to be accurate. But could it have been ESP? Not according to physicists like Caltech's Sean Carroll. Is there such thing as ESP?
No. I think we know enough about the brain to say, no, it really doesn't work that way. We'd be able to test that, be able to put a little receiver next to your head and pick up those signals if they were actually coming.
They can't detect it yet.
You believe ESP exists?
Yeah, of course.
In 1995, Project Stargate was shut down, but government interest in the paranormal has not been completely abandoned. Writer Annie Jacobson says the military is studying soldiers who seem to be able to sense danger.
An example would be a soldier out in the battlefield with a unit, and the one soldier says, let's not go down that street any further, I sense an IED. They'll send a robot out, and the robot will locate the buried IED.
It's called precognition, sensing what will happen before it does. Dean Radin, now at the Institute of Noetic Sciences that studies ESP, put me through a test.
This experiment is going to see if your body responds before you see an emotional picture as compared to before a calm picture. And there we go.
If the pupils of my eyes dilate before the disturbing ones appear on the screen, that's precognition. And I'm going to find out whether I have any special powers.
We'll find out. And the answer is yes.
That I am reacting before I'm seeing an emotional picture.
5 seconds before.
Whoa.